This is Speak On It. My name is Malik, part of the Ritual Current Team Shrine for Ancestral Remembrance presentation. Let me say it like that. We got a lot to talk about today. And we will get to the election. There is something that's really sad with the state's attorney and the police department here in Chicago. And not only in Chicago, but Cook County. And I'm not throwing salt or mud at Kim Foxx, because truly, I believe the sister has a point in her point. It's just that things are so out of control and that you can't get that office and the mayor office to come together and figure it out. I mean, it's a simple matter as it relates to the words I just spoke, but it ain't a simple matter as it relates to personalities. Because personalities is the real problem in Chicago with all of this confusion we got. It's a matter of personality. Because the mayor, I mean, she's smooth. She is. She is, and we all feel that she's auntie. We do. But the personality, Kim Foxx, we all feel that she's sister. We do. So here we are, Negroes in Chicago who hold two strong black women very dear in our whole being of Negroes, descendants of slaves, so-called blacks, so-called African Americans. I ain't going for that people of color. I ain't going. Ain't none of the folks I just called people of color. Those are traditional Negroes, descendants of slaves. So we all know where they coming from. And where both of them is coming from is where we coming from. But the personality. Auntie need to go back home to Cincinnati, wherever the hell she's from, for a minute and have a retreat with her family, with them church people, so she can become more humble, so she can work with other people. And then Kim need to let go of the scars. The scars will always remain with all of us. But right now, we need healing here in Chicago. No, dude, I'm not trying to take the title of your little show, Healing Chicago. No. But what we need is our people to heal so we can move away from these lies and misdirections. Feel me? And one of the things that's just so painful is that a black female sergeant, and you know they didn't just give her that. She had to earn it, she had to sacrifice, she had to suffer to get that job. And then some savages playing clever. Can we help you with your groceries? Now they could have stayed out of her and her husband's business and just whipped their old savage behinds on. But no, then they take the opportunity to ruin her life. But the problem is, we said this almost 3 weeks ago about the man in Tinley Park. They stole his car, right? Then he got it back, they came back and stole it again, so his children said, "Pops, boo, boo, boo." So he runs out with his gun legally. He had permission to have it. But instead of doing what he should have done with it, and that's aim at them and shoot them, he shot in the air because he didn't want to kill the criminal, right? So they charge him. This sergeant, instead of doing what she should have done, they are shooting them. You say you kill kids? You damn right. You need to do something to these little devils. Instead, she shot the ground. So now you want to charge her. But yet you let them go on and you don't want to charge them with nothing serious because woo, 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 woo. Well, hell, if you can find all of these exceptions, all of these handicaps to crutch up these little devils that's running around here messing up people's lives and taking people's lives, then you need to be able to find something not to charge the man in Tinley Park. You need to be able to find something not to charge this sergeant. What kind of justice is that? Her mistake, his mistake, is that they did not aim the gun on the target that they've been trained to aim it on. What they did is try to be law-abiding, upright citizens, but here we are in a system in Chicago where you take the low-down criminal and you raise him or her above the upright citizen. So the citizen get punished, the citizen get destroyed, and the damn criminals let go free. Come on, y'all. Some little white, fugitive-looking devil had the nerve to say once, I don't like labels, talking about something I said. You clueless, you don't like labels? Everything I just said is what's real in the experience of Negroes. So whether or not you like labels or not, I could give less than a dime, because the truth is, they are little savages, they are little devils. But the public go invest that money in training and be correct in carrying, conceal, and carry. And yet, you all want the headline to be, you charge the police sergeant. You should have gave her an award. And you should have gave her another one for not killing them. That's if it would have been you. Bottom line is, and I know that area good, all of us know Sam Club out there. We know, we go there, we know how that's set up. But these little bastards come up and disarm somebody. Can I help you? Trying to act like they good citizens and then try to take her vehicle. And no, not try, take it. And then run off, tear it up. Y'all call it joyride? Joyride was back in the day, 80 years ago. These little bastards ain't joyriding now. They're just doing what they do, playing out fantasies that this social media has given them, and now they finna change so-called Facebook to Meta, whatever. So now they're gonna have a whole different way of viewing life, experiencing life, similar to that 3D mess, where a person will be able to go into it. Now, what do you think these devils, these little savages gonna be doing now? Now they're gonna take these so-called platforms, and now they're going to really be able to get geeked up and live in fantasy and destroy our reality. Brother, let's get started, because that commentary, I could do that one for 2 hours.
New at 9 o'clock, an off-duty Chicago police officer is charged with shooting at a car thief who stole her SUV Saturday night in Evergreen Park. 58-year-old Onetta Sampson Carney is being held on $5,000 bond. She's charged with reckless discharge of a firearm. The thief crashed her SUV during a police chase in the Loop. The 19-year veteran was loading groceries in the parking lot at Sam's Club when 3 men approached, and one of them got in her SUV and took off. That's when prosecutors say she shot at her car. No one was hurt. 6 people were arrested. 5 of them are juveniles.
I don't need to say no more. I said it before. But let me say this here. Here comes some more misdirection. See, the mixed direction in Chicago is just plain unacceptable, but we accept it. You keep talking about gangs, but I used to say, man, they don't know. They know because they got some of these little street operatives on payroll, real live gang traditional people. They out there. They talking to these people in high places. They part of that. They getting paid now. So that they know. And I know these dudes are telling them what's real. They ain't just telling them what they want to hear. I know. But they ain't hearing that. You understand? They ain't hearing it. You see this picture I'm showing you? That's what I've been reduced to, because on my little platform, they took everything related to news video concerning this case, they had wiped it out. Even Wednesday night when I tried to use it on the other medium, they had wiped it out. So this morning I was glad that Brother Amari knew how to do what he had to do so we could see it. But look at this sister. You know, your grandkids, your kids destroyed her life. Could. Destroyed her livelihood. Could. But she wasn't doing nothing to them. She's a police officer that tried to help people. You know what I'm saying? And yet help herself and her family. And then they come along and destroy her life. And you talking about making her a criminal? No, Fox, you need to figure out another way. You need to get foxy and figure out another way. Find that law that makes exceptions for her and the man in Tinley Park. They did what they were supposed to do to be legal. Plus, she's a police sergeant. I'm sure she's on call 24/8. So how you gonna say she did something wrong? She did something great. She didn't kill him. That's greater than me. I'm gonna leave it alone. For y'all be thinking I'm the biggest devil demon in the world.
Political reporter Tamon.
Let's look at this piece, man. Chicago declares war on gangs.
Bradley goes beyond the headlines and onto the city streets.
This week, federal authorities announced sweeping conspiracy charges against members of a West Side gang allegedly responsible for 19 murders over the last 20 years. The allegations are just the latest example of police and political leaders turning up the heat on gangs, who they say are driving up shootings. But those actually on the streets say pointing the finger at gangs oversimplifies the city's extraordinary gun violence problem.
Gangs in the city are a huge problem.
With Chicago in the midst of a surge in gun violence, Mayor Lightfoot and the police department declared war on gangs.
We are going after gangs in this city.
This summer, Mayor Lightfoot introduced a plan to sue gangs for their assets.
To be very blunt and clear, we are going after their blood money.
Ernest Cato is CPD's chief of the Bureau of Counterterrorism.
We're going to do our best to give these children, these gang members, the help that they need. But we must be clear. If they don't want to accept that help and they refuse that help, we will be looking to discipline.
Cato says the department will expand use of community-oriented teams dedicated to helping rebuild neighborhoods. But his orders are clear. Take the fight to street organizations. To help, the department is building another gang database.
We're working to have a very strong process. It's going to be vetted. It's going to be fair. You're going to be notified. When you're identified, we're going to come to your house.
So a new database then?
Well, a new system. A new system where we're going to be able to gather information.
Civil rights groups condemned CPD's original gang database as racially discriminatory, and the city's inspector general found the data riddled with errors. Northeastern University professor Lance Williams is an expert on gangs.
To say you're going to target them is kind of like really weird because those entities don't exist. What you have today are fragments of those groups that exist from block to block.
The notion of decimating the gang is hard to define.
Cook County State's Attorney Kim Fox says her office attacks gang activity through its complex homicide and gang unit, financial crimes unit, and gun crime strategy team. But she's not embracing the city's increased focus on gangs.
Is it wise as a strategy to say we're going after gangs?
I think there's a pervasive fear of gangs. And because of the structures that we have been so accustomed to in this city, and whether you were talking about Al Capone's gang back in the 20s or 30s, or the GDs from the 80s, that there is a notion about Chicago and gangs that when we see violence, there's a tendency to believe that that's what it is. I think we certainly need to make sure that we don't have these organizations that are hell-bent on creating violence and mayhem under control, but we also have to make sure that we're addressing why people join gangs, what happens to our social structure when we have kids as young as 9, 10, 11 feeling that there's more comfort and solidarity in a gang structure than they have in their communities.
Street pastor Donovan Price travels to dozens of shootings every weekend. He says the problem is not gangs, it's guns.
Both the good kids and the bad kids have guns. The good people and the bad people have guns because they feel safer with a gun than without a gun, knowing that the rest of the people have guns. The reason that you would shoot at somebody has gone down to the average stepping on a shoe, a statement on social media, whatever the case may be. We see the retaliation and then the retaliation for the retaliation, and that goes on. And now we say, oh, well, it's a gang war, when in actuality, it's a series of ill-natured moves.
Chico Tillman served 16 years in prison for conspiracy to distribute drugs. He too finds the Lightfoot administration's anti-gang focus head-scratching.
The problem is more nuanced than just getting rid of gangs. The entire philosophical view that gangs are pushing the violence is incorrect. I believe it's interpersonal conflicts between individuals who aren't equipped with the skills to be able to resolve it in a peaceful way. I think this happens from living in a state of perpetual trauma where shootings take place daily.
When released from prison, Tillman went back to school at age 40, earning a PhD. He believes he lost his way as a young man because he did not have a mentor.
A role model is anybody can be a role model. But mentorship is somebody who can walk you through a process.
And you didn't have that.
The challenge is I never had a male figure in my life for a long period of time, or had a connection with somebody that had a pathway of success outside of individuals who were athletes, entertainers, or involved in subculture activities.
Opposing gang member pulled the gun and clicked the trigger, and unfortunately for me, it didn't go off, or otherwise I'd have been dead.
Raymond Richard, who goes by Brother Raymond, spent 25 years in prison for selling dope, aggravated battery, and other offenses.
They never told me I'd go to jail. They never told me I'd be shot. They never told me I'd be addicted to drugs. They never told me I can wind up homeless.
Today, Brother Raymond and Chico work to keep young boys on the right path.
I joined the gang at 11. I didn't have a mentor. Had I had a mentor, I probably went to the penitentiary 6 times. I probably wouldn't have been left for dead 3 times, right?
I'm guessing, Chico, that the work that you do now is making sure that young men have somebody that they can look up to, a mentor.
Without a doubt. You know what a lot of people want? That's real simple. Access. Because they can touch, feel, call somebody that actually went a different route and made it.
Last week, City Council approved more than $1 billion in investments in affordable housing, violence prevention, and aid to business corridors. But Professor Williams says money alone won't end the bloodshed.
Exactly.
Leaders must address the human element. Williams is advocating for outreach and brutally honest dialogue in Black and brown communities.
I see it, mainly as a cultural problem. It's got a lot to do with dominating women. It's got a lot to do with being able to effeminate other men who then have to oppose that. And because there's not a lot of room to use other resources to, exercise your power and your authority and control, when you have easy access to weapons, that's one way that you can, get your manhood and dignity. That's a toxic form of your masculine identity. I think we have to fix that problem among many young African American males.
Governor Pritzker has pledged to funnel $250 million to reduce shootings. That and the investments Chicago is making show that money to combat violence is flowing. But will the city tweak its game plan or continue to use a playbook from a different era? Tamon Bradley, WGN News.
Now, while I'm saying this, Brother Omari, would you get the piece where Pritzker is talking about that $250 million? But in the meantime, I just want to say this. That is me. That's one PhD from the joint. Another one from the joint, PhD. Another brother. And then all of these black men with degrees and background in it. And we telling y'all, y'all need to do something different. But you keep doing what you want to do. She think that she know, and we know Brown don't know. Brown just got here. What do he know? What do he know on that level? He's a good brother. He from down home, Texas. He from an area where they might have a little something, but they ain't used to what they got here in Chicago. You need a Chicago person that deals with the Chicago swag, the Chicago soul, the Chicago trauma, the Chicago spirit. You need that in order to do this. Then you can understand this here. But the bottom line is more money is not the key, because you're sending the money and you're doing it in the wrong direction. The money has to be put in use with people like me and the people you just saw. Everybody you just saw. All of those people that made the contribution to that piece, which was a great piece, was right on the money. They kept it 100. But y'all can't hear that. Y'all can't see that. Y'all doing something that we all know won't stop it. And then you got these other little creatures out here, political operatives, want to think and want to con the public. But all they doing is echoing what their masters have told them to echo. And that is that if you have programs like this, you are complaining. No, we're not complaining. We conversing. We critiquing. So don't buy the misdirect. And now they want to push the whole issue, but they think they're clever. They ask the question about excuses. Or they make the statement, no more excuses. Shut the hell up. You don't know the difference between an excuse. I'm going to leave that alone. We ain't dealing with excuses. We're dealing with the handicaps. A handicap is a difference than an excuse. An excuse means you have opportunity and you chose not to. A handicap means you have been stripped of your opportunity and you can't. So you dumb behind politicians, go to hell with no excuses. These are not excuses we're talking about. We're talking about remove the handicaps. If you cut my arms off, you cut my legs off, don't tell me to come to you. Unless you're going to give me some wings. Unless you're going to give me some bionic limbs to make that move, shut your damn mouth. These are not excuses. The problem with the Negro community is we've been handicapped. And as long as you bastards that we elect don't understand that, you're just wasting our money. But for you little kids to come around with your little 40 and 50-year-old behind, thinking you know, and the rest of us been here for years, and we do know, because we've been there. The hell you gonna tell us? But then you wanna play them off. But I like those brothers, because those brothers, you know, they look like they're in the academia. I was back in the day when I first got out of joint and got my thing. Yeah, I was in the university, you know, community. But I'm more on a street level. And I look like this here because I am definitely an advocate for African traditional beliefs, particularly as it relates to spiritual things. That's another component you're missing. Now, I've shown you here. Boy, it's almost easy. We could just go through community, and all we had to do is just take a spray bottle and a little something, and we could draw up the spirits that's in the tree, the spirits that's in the earth, the spirits that's in the lake, the spirits that's in the river. You say, well, what that got to do with it? You dumb, boy, I almost called you a dumb ass. Don't you know that you drank the water? Don't you know that you walk on the earth? Don't you know that you breathe the air? Don't you know that the tree gives you shade and live longer than you? Don't you know that the rock is how you move around? How do you think you're going to function in balance if you are too blind, too ignorant to embrace nature? Brother, let's leave that alone. Because, see, I'm through playing with you people, whether it's on radio or TV. And I don't give a damn what you say about how amplified I am. Shut the hell up. God, move the dial. But I'm not going to sit here and be quiet. You got enough money to fix this situation. But like officer, well, not officer. I'm sure he's at least a commander. I don't know what his title is. Maybe a superintendent. You know, and I'm being careful with that because everybody's sensitive about their title. But Cato. See, this brother know, he do. But something I want to say on that is this. See, no, they don't need discipline, Cato. No, they don't. They need punishment. Discipline is you trying to correct. Discipline is you trying to guide. They beyond that. They need some pain to get their attention Then you discipline them. You can't discipline them until you give them some pain. Punish them. Because taking away their little privileges, they don't care. When you put some pain on that ass, I bet you they care. That punishment is what'll stop them. You got to put some pain on them. Because Facebook and all them other platforms, they're already creating more false existence, more fantasy that they're going to use to continue to disrupt the human nature. And I see them every day. These kids cannot cross the daggone street without looking at that device. Cars coming, and they walking in the street with that damn thing in their eyes. And that's why cars, they used to slow down. Now cars will blow and speed up because the people are tired of seeing how stupid they are, like some dumb cattle. You mean to tell me there's something happening on a device more important than you watching the cars? But not just on that. That device has become an addiction, worse than opiates, worse than cocaine, worse than crack, worse than meth. Now wait till these creatures grow up. Punishment is the only thing gonna get their attention. Discipline, they're gonna just move into the other altered reality. But you need people like me and the people you just saw. And if you don't want me, I don't care, I can stay just where I'm at. But at least listen to the people you just saw. Because I'm gonna do me. I'm gonna walk in the neighborhoods. I'm gonna talk to the tree. I'm gonna talk to the rock. I'm gonna talk to the wind. I'm gonna talk to the waves. Understand? I'm gonna do that. And there's some more y'all out there that understand that. And y'all need to do it too. But you don't have to come and do it with me. I ain't that type of nigga. You don't have to do nothing with me. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do anyway, but I'm just saying, we got to somehow or another connect. And don't be so ashamed for those of us. Don't be so embarrassed for those of us that still believe in the traditions of our ancestors before they were brought into slavery. Brother, show this piece here with Frickson. He mean well, $250 million.
Gun violence in Illinois, a public health crisis.
At a signing ceremony today in a social services agency in East Garfield Park, the governor pledged $250 million toward programs that he says will target the state's most dangerous communities.
Fox 32's Dan Placco reports on how those tax dollars will be spent.
We are united in our commitment to end gun violence in Illinois.
And to help achieve that lofty goal, Governor Pritzker today signed an executive order declaring gun violence a public health crisis in Illinois. The order establishes the Reimagined Public Safety Act and creates a new state-level office of firearm violence.
The reality is that black and brown communities are being wrought by this violence. Young black men die from gun violence at a rate 20 times higher than their white counterparts. This must stop.
The governor and state lawmakers also earmarked $250 million over the next 3 years to fund violence prevention services, high-risk youth intervention, and youth development programs that they believe will tackle the root cause of violence in Illinois.
This is a long fight, not a short fight. This is a fight that we must think and reimagine at every single level.
Among those welcoming the new funding, Tamika Harris, whose son was gunned down on the west side last August.
They say it takes a village to raise a kid. It absolutely takes a village to mourn one as well. And so I'm so grateful for all the support that I've had.
But the specifics of where all that money is going are still a bit murky. The governor's office saying that community organizations and nonprofits will be invited to submit proposals for funding, with $50 million this year and $100 million each of the next 2 fiscal years. In East Garfield Park, Dane Placco, Fox 32 Chicago.
Yeah, clearly, money ain't this shit. It's not. It's politics. You got to get out of the box, y'all. Quiet as kept. Some of us was here under Harold Washington when they got out of the box and they put the Chicago Intervention Network in place. Some of y'all in political office, and y'all was part of that. You know what I'm saying? Yet y'all want to act like y'all don't think none of us here that know how to do this. Yeah, things have changed, but some things don't change. You understand? But I ain't gonna waste a whole lot of time on that. But you all find that piece of Mari where these creatures, now this is a real gang here, keep going off into this store and stealing those people product. That's a game. That's organized. The stuff you messing with in the hood, those is back to what the brother said. Those are just send-offs. Them killings, those are send-offs. Those ain't gang hits for the most part.
Thieves stole more than $150,000 in merchandise from a store that has been hit before. WGN's Jenna Barnes is live in Northbrook with more tonight. Jenna?
Yeah, Ray and Micah, this is the second time in a month thieves have hit the Louis Vuitton store at Northbrook Court Mall, and this time police say they got away with more than twice as much. Lunchtime Monday, Northbrook police say 13 thieves wearing masks and gloves barged into the Louis Vuitton store in Northbrook Court Mall. A mall employee sent WGN News this picture of the police response. Northbrook's police chief says the thieves were in and out in 30 seconds, stealing more than $150,000 worth of designer merchandise, then loading into 3 vehicles waiting nearby and getting away. It comes after another theft from the same store last month, caught on cell phone video. October 5th, 8 suspects fled the store with $66,000 worth of bags and luggage. Police tell WGN News no one was arrested in that case, and while it's possible the same people could be involved in Monday's theft, detectives are still investigating. The mall's management company says in a statement it's deeply disheartened by the crime. Quote, "We recognize the concerns of our community and want to stress that our highest priority is the safety and well-being of our guests and tenants. We are working closely with our tenant, security team, and partners at the Northbrook Police Department, but we do not publicly discuss details of our security protocols. Doing so could compromise its effectiveness." No one was hurt during this theft. Northbrook police say they're reviewing surveillance video as part of their investigation, and they plan on increasing officer presence around the mall, especially as we head into the holiday season. We're live in Northbrook tonight. Jenna Barnes, WGN News.
Thank you, Jenna.
Now, see, that's a game. You see what I'm saying? Organized, strategic targeting. But what's happening with the violence in the Negro colonies? Most of the time, and you know this, it ain't organized. It's impromptu. It's emotional. It just happened. One of the speakers in the piece, he said, you know, it had something to do with some manhood. You really don't have to worry about too much manhood in these dudes now. Because they smoking so much dope that they ain't got too much manhood left.
Chicago today.
They smoking so much dope that they become so feminine until, they ain't standing on that. And then them females smoking so much dope, they done become masculine. So the whole reverse order of trying to have manhood and womanhood, that's been reversed. So they doing it for a couple of reasons. I don't like the word mentoring. I really don't like it. And that's where they like to spend a lot of money and throw it away in. But whatever word you use, I like rites of passage for black folk because it's natural. Used to be something like the Cub Scouts or the Boy Scouts, where you take the kids, the boys, the girls, and you take them to the bush, to the park, to the forest preserve, like I'm talking about. And you honor the tree. You take them fishing and you honor the water and the fish. You show them the importance of life. You understand? You take them to the beach and you show them how the earth receives and gives back sometime and never be moved. But you don't want to hear that. Maybe because I'm the one bringing it. And I'm not a poor me, crybaby type dude. All I'm saying is this, I've been telling you this here for 30 years. And yeah, during that 30 years, I've been allowed to influence some things, and we have been allowed to get some results. And some of what you see right here now, they're still in existence. Yeah, every time they get a paycheck, every time they eat a crumb, every time they go to the bathroom, my brain, my mind is stamped on whatever went into their mouth and came out their behind. Hell yeah, I said that, and y'all know it. So I don't know why you sitting here acting like that what we saying won't work. I don't understand it. But I'm not bowing down. Never. But like I was telling somebody the other day, Olderman Joe Connor, matter of fact. Dude that got all type of experience. Dude to run rites of passage program from all ages, all over the country. Dude that been in and out of Africa, had people here. Dr. Mensah, God rest his soul. You know? Gosa, police officer. Southfold, police officer. Funk. All of us was together. All of us been through this. But yet you can't see your way of taking advantage of those skills? Is it because we elders? Well, older men them do rites of passage for elders, just like they do for kids. We're looking for camps where we can take them and we can go through the whole ritual of coming in harmony with nature, because quiet is kept. That's one of the basic keys of stopping this. Touching the depth, the commonality between their life and the other life forms. You to say you was as dumb as a rock, as dumb as a pet rock. But you know, that's crazy. Because every damn computer that operates off of what? A rock, a piece of sand. So who's the dummy? But we have to break that down to the language that our children understand, and as they grow up into different passages of life, they begin to feel and know what they're dealing with. Now this sounds so simple, but yet you can't comprehend. You know what I'm saying? Boy, I wish I wasn't so inhibited. When I say inhibited, what I mean is this. I really should just tell you what needs to be done, but I can't. All I can do is talk about it the way I'm talking about it. And if you can't discern it, then that's on you. Now, we finna switch gears a little bit here, because we got to get out of here. But would you play the piece where Minneapolis, Amari, voters rejected taking money from the police, rejected defunding the police? Minneapolis. Y'all thought y'all was going to get a big bang out of that, didn't you? Them people say we ain't completely crazy. We ain't going to defund the police. We're going to try to figure out a way to work some other things out. But defunding the police in this climate, defunding the police in this day and time, I salute the people in Minneapolis that had more sense than to buy that insanity that some of you damn Democrats, you senseless creatures.
The campaign to replace
the
Minneapolis Police Department. But a large portion of the donations are reportedly coming from outside Minneapolis, attempting to sway a local ballot measure that asks voters if a public safety agency should take over for the police. Here its reaction is retired Minneapolis police officer Mylan Masson, that is to say. Mylan, good morning to you.
Good morning. Okay,
so $1 million, roughly $1 million reported in donations, about half of it given by MoveOn.org, $75,000 given by the ACLU. Why are all of these out-of-towners trying to influence your local election on the question of whether or not they should replace the police department with a public safety agency?
Well, I think it's probably one of the major cities that has, maybe the only city that has this on the ballot right now. So they're trying to get votes, or trying to dissuade people or persuade people to go one way or the other.
Sure. One Minneapolis resident wrote to the Star Tribune voicing their opinion. They said, how are we to have a fair conversation about how public safety should be approached in our city when these large outside influences are putting big dollars into influencing such an important city decision? I suspect that most of them know very little about what life is like in Minneapolis and perhaps have never even visited here. But you know, Mylan, there are a lot of political interests in the country, and right now there's a portion of the country that would like to get rid of the police, defund the police.
Yes, defund the police without a plan. What are they going to do? If this money is going to be spent to sit down with the community and sit down with the police and city council to make decisions, to make changes, that's a great idea. But if they're there just to donate money to make the legal people richer, I'm not agreeing with that.
You know, Mylan, I don't know if you saw a poll. There was a poll out the other day from the Harvard-Harris people, and it said a majority of Americans, given what happened a year ago, they're in Minneapolis with George Floyd. Given that, 1 year later, a majority would like to see more police and not less police. And they don't support the defund police idea because that does not make them feel safe.
No, it does not make you feel safe. If you got rid of all of the principals at a school and all of the teachers at a school, what would happen?
Yeah.
Probably not much learning.
Good point. And what is it like in Minneapolis these days? Does it feel like the same town you grew up in?
No, it does not at all. Not even when I was working. We had a general consensus with the community. The community was with us. We had national nights out that were very heavily attended. Everybody loved the police. They worked with the police. We don't know where this bad influence is coming. Now, there are bad police officers that need to be stopped. Right. That's not, we need to do that. And we need to rethink some of the problems that the police have to take care of. Mental illness can certainly be one. Alcoholism is another problem that police really don't need to take care of.
Well, let's see what happens out in Minneapolis. Mylan, thank you very much for getting up early, and thank you for your service.
You are welcome.
Right.
Now, let me say this. You know, on the daily, the Chicago Alternative Policing Strategy, it was working. Yeah, it needed tweaking. Under Rahm Emanuel, it didn't matter, and right now it don't seem to matter either. But when they had me and others out in the street,
with comments,
community organizers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Protesters.
Yeah.
Made their
That's a
way
good
to
alternative. But it's part of the police. It's part of the community. Now, I don't know why Rahm Emanuel, well, I can imagine. But I truly don't know why this administration here have not sort of like revisited the Chicago Alternative Policing Strategy, so-called CAPS. Now, they'll say they have. They'll say this and that. But you don't take community organizers and make them some fake manager, make them some fake Girl Friday or Boy Friday. You let them do what they do. Organize in the community. That's what you do. But no, you want to sit here and you want to play like they did before early in the Daley administration, that the only ideas you can get is from these so-called higher educational institutions around the city. That's foolishness. They can't do nothing but take your money. That's all they can do. They training kids on little theories. And you still got a dude retarded in the fact, talking about he's Mr. Ceasefire. Nigga, you ain't never been no Mr. Ceasefire. You just been an operative. And I ain't talking about you, dude. I'm just talking about reality. But that was some white boy that stole something from somebody and brought it here. So don't play games with us. We know how that came. And you know we know. So don't sit here acting like you knew. It never worked the way it was supposed to work because that university, them white folk was controlling you puppets. But if you let it work the way it's supposed to work, there can be a ceasefire. But not under the mind and the tongue of some European who want you to kill each other. I not care if you don't want to hear it. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, you can stop me. I know you can. I know all you got to do is call CAN TV. Say, swipe him. Didn't delete him. I know you can do that. I hope you don't. Just call this radio station. Swipe him. Delete him. I know you can do that, but don't. I mean, if you do, you do. But I'm just saying you need somebody to skin it. And that's what we're doing now. We're trying to skin it. Time out for handicaps. Too much money out here now. You know what I mean? Too much money. And for you little politicians who want to talk about excuses, you stop making excuses. Stop denying us money and giving it to white folk so they can make 10 times the amount you want to pay us in salary. You want to pay us minimum wage, but you let white folks who don't even live in your damn district make $100,000 on a $200,000 program, and you don't want to pay a nigga minimum wage. And then you call yourself a representative, and the nigga stay walking distance from your office. That's happening all over the place. Negroes got to go to Hispanic aldermen to find out how to get things that the city is giving, like the universal public aid thing, where they're going to get that $500 a month. People, and I talked about that last week. People got to go to the Hispanic to find out because you dumb, nappy-head aldermen don't have a clue what they're talking about. And the application process has already begun. You see what I'm saying? That's part of our problem. Stop faking. Stop shaking. And stop telling us we criticizing, or we complaining, or we making excuses. All of that money finna come, you know what I'm saying? You gonna blame me that I don't get none of it? Woo! Or it's the excuse. No, nigga, it's a handicap. Move the handicap and let us deal with this situation. Here we are. But now, brother, find Eric Adams, the brother that was elected mayor of New York. You know, they said that, well, Eric said, I don't want to say that. You know, they were saying the most important thing to those people was public safety and police-related issues. I want to say that again.
Dealing with the violence in our cities, and so we can't an unequal way of dealing with the violence in our cities, and so we can't wait for gentrification before we create safe environments. Well, I bring a perspective that's probably different from anyone in politics. Number one, I was arrested as a 15-year-old child, beat by police officers. So I know what the cause of reform really means. But number two, I also had to deal with losing a young childhood friend that died through police violence. And so it's the combination that we're at. We're at the real intersectionality of dealing with not only the violence in our streets, but also calls for police reform. And that's so important as we decide how we're going to move forward as a country. And I think when I sit down at the table, not only here in Washington, D.C., but also when I sit down and speak to others who are trying to figure out how do we get the combination we're looking for? How do we get the justice we deserve with the safety we need? We can do it without heavy-handed policing. We can do it without being abusive. We can do it without treating the communities who are already victimized through crime to be further victimized by their law enforcement officers. That is what I'm going to bring to this conversation for the people of the city of New York, and I'm hoping what we do will cascade throughout this entire country. It's always interesting when people talk about the decrease we've had in New York. We had a decrease in the overall numbers in New York, but we still had pockets of communities that were never ever able to turn around the crime that they were witnessing. We witnessed when communities were gentrified, they became safer. And we continue to pull people away from those communities that were dealing with crime every day. I say we can't have an unequal way of dealing with the violence in our cities. And so we can't wait for gentrification before we create safe environments. Right now, when you look at New York City, the Brownsvilles, the South Jamaica Queens, the South Bronx, when you look at all of these places that are predominantly black, brown, and poor, you're witnessing that the vestige of crime continued to exist. That must stop, and that must change. And we can do it if we have a response from the federal, state, and city level. Then we must look at those feeders of crime. We must look at the fact that 30% of the inmates, according to one report, are dyslexic. 55% of Rikers Island prisoners have learning disabilities. 48% have mental health illnesses. So we have to stop feeding the institutions that produce crime. I say this over and over again. Before there's a crime on our streets, there's a criminal act that took place in our Department of Education when we don't fail to protect our children, educate our children, and put them on a pathway to prosperity. We don't educate, we will incarcerate, and that is why we're seeing the incarceration so often.
Now, Amari, there's another one shorter with him where he gives a little thank you to the community. And if I think I sent it to you. And I just, it's real short, but I want to hear what he said there. The way he thanked the community. He sounded like a black man. You know what I mean? He sounded like a Negro. He sounded like an African American. Because he said, I want to thank you brothers and sisters. Oh man, that was so refreshing. He was not ashamed, and you just heard him there. It was so good to see a black man elected, and how he get elected in New York with the diversity of those people. What a hell of a thing. But in the meanwhile, let me just do this, and we'll find that at the end because I sent it back. But let me just say this. The other night, the election showed a lot of things. Yes, sir, show this, man. Because then we're going to talk about these type of people that got elected.
With IBM,
but there's nothing greater in my way of thinking than this thing with Eric Adams, because hopefully he's the beginning of what we need. Yeah, he's a black man that's been through it. He's a black man that was able to get it done, right? And I know you're going to talk about some other things, but I don't want to hear about that.
A future for every.
He's a black man. A natural man on that level. Go on, man.
The team told me to come through the back, come around the stage, come directly in. And they said, this is the way we want you to move. And I said to them, I'm the mayor.
That's right.
It doesn't matter if you are in Borough Park in his Hasidic community, if you're in Flatbush in the Korean community, if you're in Sunset Park in the Chinese community, if you're in Rockaway, if you're out in Queens in the Dominican community, Washington Heights, all of you have that power to fuel us. We are so divided right now, and we're missing the beauty of our diversity. We have to end all of this division of who we are, where we go to worship, what do we wear. No, today we take off the intramural jersey and we put on one jersey, Team New York.
Team Negro, Team Black American, Team African American. That's a black man. That's what we've been missing. All of this fake you've been presenting to us. No. But check this. They said they called him the second black man elected. Black man, I'm talking about the election night and this subliminal seduction, this subliminal raping of the mind of the Negro. Now, play the one about Wu in Boston. Because, play it. Because you see, the terminologies they used.
Michelle Wu becomes the first woman and the first person of color to be elected mayor. That ends Boston's 200-year history of electing only white men as mayor. The 36-year-old Harvard Law School graduate will be sworn in on November 16th.
Now, I want you to follow me on this.
From a box.
Now, Brother Eric,
where you've been.
Second
Others
black man
tell you
elected
where
to
you're
New
going.
York. Woo! I looked at her and I tried to figure it out. They called her first woman and person of color. Duh, dumb, stupid Negro. Person of color? Huh? She don't look like that Harris woman. They call that Harris woman, vice president, an Asian. They tell me, woo, it's from Thailand or Thai somewhere. But Michelle, somebody said, well, that's something we don't know. She lived in Chicago. She went to Harvard. But when you look at her, I mean, you know, she don't look like, but somehow she got that jacket, person of color. And they say she's progressive. Woo, woo. I don't know what all that means. Seem like it might mean, I ain't gonna say that. Now, that's two. Now, I want you to just show that picture with the woman in the red dress, the lieutenant governor of Virginia. Oh, there's so much we could do, but we ain't got time. We ain't gonna be here all day. But I want you to understand these labels they putting on these people. Now, look at that. Republican Marine vet. See what I mean? But, look at her. But they called her person of color. But she looked like a Negro, don't she? Don't she look like African American? Don't she look black? But that Republican in Virginia that slapped them Democrats and came in with her, I'm saying. But they didn't call her a black woman. They called her a person of color. That's two people of color. Now, let's go to Cincinnati, Ohio. Play that one for us, Amara, with this little Asian boy. We're in Cincinnati, Ohio. I don't know what's been happening in Cincinnati to where them Asians ain't bought up all them Chinese joints and they got all this control now. Find that piece with that. Well, we're going to make it plain. Now, while the technology is moving it out,
Nice.
we're going to just say this
Did you
here.
pick one out yet?
Now, woo, they didn't call her Asian. They called her a person of color. This dude here, they calling him an Asian. And the question should be in the mind of the Negro is what's happening with these words. How are some people of color, some people, Negro, black, African American,
Democrat Ed Gainey
some people
became
Asian?
the first black
what's
mayor
up?
of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania's second largest city. But he wasn't the only one that made history. CBS's Nancy Chen has more on the other notable Election Day firsts.
History made as Dearborn, Michigan elects Abdullah Hammoud as its first Arab American and Muslim mayor.
To the young girls and boys who have ever been ridiculed for their faith or ethnicity, today is proof that you are as American as anyone else.
Election night ushered in a new chapter in the changing face of American politics. In Virginia,
when I joined the Marine Corps, I was still a Jamaican.
Marine veteran Winsome Sears will be the state's next lieutenant governor, the first woman to win the seat. Voters in New York chose retired NYPD captain Eric Adams to be the city's second black mayor ever.
We made history in Cincinnati.
And both Cincinnati and Boston elected Asian Americans for the first time in their histories.
It's been a really unexpected journey.
Michelle Wu is also the first woman and the first person of color to be chosen for Boston's top job.
From every corner of our city, Boston has spoken.
The first is only relevant if there's a second, third, fourth, and then the door is wide open for everyone. And there's a lot more change where this is coming from.
Nancy Chen, CBS News, Boston.
Thank you, Amari, for putting all of that together. That saved us a lot of time. Now, let's look at Cincinnati. You saw that. Boston, you saw that. You see? Now, the real question, y'all, is this. What happened to the backbone of the Democratic Party, huh? What happened to it, y'all? Look like it turned into a damn jellyfish, don't it? Look like it turned into a gristle. But it sure wasn't no bone, because y'all didn't bring nothing home. No, you didn't. So now maybe you'll come back to your senses and realize it ain't all about you. It's about us. Because right along and now, other than that Republican, I ain't seen no other. Well, there was some other ones, because there was one that won some office based upon the fact that there was a defund the police platform, and she won. But then there was another Negro man who won against the proponents of defund the police. So there was other little wins. But we ain't got time to go through all of that. But I just want to remind you, because I am the one to remind you. They are the backbone of the Democratic Party. Oh, yeah? You see now, don't you? You didn't mean nothing. Because the Asians, they rolling. How? The Arabs, they rolling. How? Now, how are those Arabs going to do what they do in America? Maybe they first generation, second generation. But their religion say, if a sucker do a certain thing, cut his hand off. If a sucker do a certain thing, woo-woo. If the woman do this here, do that. Now, how are they going to merge that into the American way when they used to being under those dictatorial, religious type governments? So now, what are you going to do, America? Are you going to make them submit to the way you do it and call it democracy? Or are you going to let them take their women and line them up and beat them and give them lashes? Huh? Oh, yeah. They coming for you. And there's one here. Oh, play that one, man. What happened to the Latino? Ain't nobody said nothing about you backbones of the Democratic Party. But you was all there trying to do what you're going to do in Virginia. Go take your jellyfish behind, your gristle behind somewhere and get next to your man and come together as a group of people and win something for yourself and stop this foolishness. Now, let's run this little piece and we're going to bring it to a halt in a minute. What happened to the Hispanic or the Latino vote in Virginia? They asked that question. I was asking it too. Because ain't nobody said nothing about the Latinos, but that's who everybody's talking about. But you better watch it out. Them Asians, them Arabs, they was the one winning Tuesday night. You understand? Know this here. And there was one dude knocked out one of them big boss Senate people. And he only spent $153 and knocked this dude who'd been in office forever out of the pocket.
Why would an oil and
You
gas
see,
company
there's a change.
executives pay to lowering
A
the
lot of y'all
emissions
won't be
intensity
embarrassed
of their
come next
operations?
presidential election.
Because we believe in actions,
Boy,
not just words.
you might end up with I told you so. Boy, but if that happened, boy, you're going to get whooped.
Fellow Virginians, this is our moment. It's our moment for parents, for grandparents, for aunts, for uncles, for neighbors to change the future of Virginia's children's lives, to change their Virginia journey. It's our time to turn that vision into a reality. It's a vision where Virginians' power, the power that has historically resided in the marbled halls in Richmond, is spread out to the kitchen tables that are held together with the bond of spirit, of liberty, and freedom.
Now, y'all don't like him because he's a Republican. He's rich. He wasn't even a politician.
Why
He was like
would an
Pricks,
oil and gas
rich,
company
and decided
pay
to be a
executives
politician.
pay
He was like
to
Ronald,
lowering-
rich, and decided to be a politician. Pricks seemed to be doing all right, though. He was like Trump, rich, and decided to be a politician. But now y'all want to talk Yang, but he won, so it don't matter. And he won, and he got him a red dress wearing, well, they say Jamaican, so she almost one of us. I guess that is why they didn't call her black. They called her a person of color. You understand? So these are things we just need to look at. I think you all get my point. Oh, no, there's a piece that's more important than that. And then we're going to get to here. There's a piece on there, Omari, where these people say those rural people, white people, are some people that they're looking for. I'm looking for it here. But see, Now, the Democratic Party, they beginning to look at them poor white folk as they backbone. They beginning to look at somebody else other than y'all. And it made it very clear that the Democrats was looking for the reality. And I think that what y'all need to understand is that y'all little honeymoon might be over now. They might start back electing black men. Yeah, I hope they do. Y'all done had a good run. Y'all run everything here in Illinois. Democrats struggle with rural white votes.
Narrowly reelected in New Jersey. The closeness of that race shocking Democrats. Another warning sign after that stunning setback in Virginia. President Biden now looking to turn the page, deflecting any blame for the loss when pressed. How much responsibility do you take for the dismal results in Virginia?
We brought out every Democrat about there was, more votes than ever has been cast for the Democrat running for governor.
Glenn Youngkin's defeat of Terry McAuliffe in the race for governor, widely viewed as a rebuke of President Biden's performance so far.
Maybe. I know we did, but I was running against Donald Trump.
Democrats now desperate for action on the president's agenda, stalled in Congress while progressives and moderates play the blame game.
Politics is about timing, and we blew it on the timing.
There is no way that you can say that a 12-point swing in a state is due to Congress not passing a bill.
While some Democrats quietly point the finger at the White House for not having what they say is a stronger legislative strategy. The president and his party now attempting to chart a path forward, with the House potentially voting this week on two massive spending measures, including Mr. Biden's $1.75 trillion Build Back Better bill. But that's still not a done deal, with House Democrats adding paid family and medical leave back into the measure, a move that could hurt its chances in the Senate.
Well, that's a challenge. Very much of a challenge.
Top Republicans argue voters sent a clear message rejecting Democratic proposals.
I don't think it was about the Democrats' failure to do it. I think it was because people didn't like that they were trying to do it.
Seeing the Virginia and New Jersey races as a preview of things to come in the midterms next November.
If you're a Democrat and President Biden won your seat by 16 points, you're in a competitive race next year. You are no longer safe.
So, Kristen, you said this is a wake-up call for Democrats. So are they reevaluating what they're going to do come midterms?
Oh, Hoda, they absolutely are. Look, Democrats seem to agree on one thing. They're failing to produce results on the issues that voters care about most. And at the top of that list is the economy, those rising prices. But that is where the agreement ends. While the president and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi are intensifying their push for Congress to vote on those two spending bills this week, other Democrats say, hey, wait a minute, voters were actually sending a different message to slow down, to get it right. And the president wasn't elected to pass sweeping legislation, but rather to bring order to what they say was a chaotic Washington. Hoda.
All right, Kristen Welker-Forrest there at the White House. Kristen, thank you.
Well, quickly, Amari, the piece we wrote now is 5 takeaways from the grim night for Democrats. And then we're going to end with that McDonald thing. So the 5 takeaways from the other night, we want to just let the people tell them. When I say the people, I'm talking about the news sources. They come up with something here. And I hope these people don't block these shows because I had to use their material, but what the hell? You know, I mean, it ain't like I'm trying to make no money or stealing it. It's just that, you know, how else would we be able to have all of this information for people that might otherwise not get it? And if they put it out there, we want to share it.
Is projected to win Virginia's gubernatorial contest, defeating former Governor Terry McAuliffe and becoming the first Republican to win a statewide election in the Old Dominion since 2009. The Associated Press called the race at 12:37 a.m. Eastern Time. Youngkin, who was virtually unknown to most Virginia voters at the beginning of the year, previously served as the CEO of the private equity firm Carlyle Group before stepping down in 2020. The Republican won the state's GOP convention in May, defeating 6 other candidates. In his victory speech shortly after 1 a.m. in Chantilly, Youngkin spoke of a, quote, new day for Virginia.
All right, we can bypass that because that's too close and it's a long piece. And the piece I'm looking for is too far. Now I'll go to those 2 pieces on McDonald's CEO, because I think the man said what a lot of us say and they just wanted something to make a whole lot of headline about. But the headline, nobody want to hear all that. The man was right. A lot of folks ain't taking care of their kids.
In Chicago today, upset with comments made by the company's CEO about two of Chicago's young shooting victims.
WGN's political reporter Taman Bradley's here now with more. Taman.
Lourdes and Ben, these text messages referring to two high-profile tragedies were sent shortly after Mayor Lightfoot visited the McDonald's headquarters. Today, a small but loud group of protesters made their way to McDonald's headquarters in the West Loop with a message for the fast food behemoth's CEO.
We're outraged today. Outraged by those racist, ignorant, and unacceptable comments.
At issue, text messages from CEO Chris Kempczinski to Mayor Lori Lightfoot about the parents of Adam Toledo and Jaslyn Adams. With both, the parents failed those kids, which I know is something you can't say, even harder to fix, Kempczinski wrote. 7-year-old Jaslyn Adams was killed in a shooting at a Westside McDonald's drive-thru one day before Kempczinski and Lightfoot met. The mayor responded, "Thanks, Chris. Great to see you in person. Such a great workspace, and your folks were terrific. I said to Joe I would be happy to reach out to the operator to offer support. He and his team members have got to be traumatized. Terrible tragedy." The texts were first revealed through a Freedom of Information Act in an unrelated matter, and they were later shared on Twitter. 13-year-old Adam Toledo was shot and killed by police during a foot chase. Community groups call Kempczinski's comments victim shaming.
The blame is poverty. The blame is poverty. There's nothing more violent than poverty.
Today's protests evolved into an assault on McDonald's pay and labor practices.
And the work we got to do is to make sure, number one, that we see to it that these workers get a living wage.
The parents of Chris failed him by raising a son that makes over $10 million a year, but cannot pay the hardest of his workers at least $15 an hour.
In a statement, Mayor Lightfoot's office said, as the mayor has said previously, families do everything they can, moms, dads, grandparents, to love and support their children, and tragedies can still happen. Victim shaming has no place in this conversation. In a letter sent to McDonald's corporate employees, Kempczinski said, "When I wrote this, I was thinking through my lens as a parent and reacted viscerally, but I have not walked in the shoes of Adams or Jaslyn's family and so many others who are facing very different reality." Kempczinski also says he's committed to working with the community to do better for children. Mayor Lightfoot did not have any public events today, so she has not weighed in personally, Lourdes and Ben.
Well, Amara, don't play the other one. I ain't gonna, we don't have to say no more on that. My position is this: man shouldn't have apologized for a damn thing. It's the truth. You don't know where your kid is. He was out being recruited, being trained. The other one, the father had you in the car with him, but he done called his folk and told him where he was gonna be, and he knew what was up. The white man is not a racist when he tells the truth. In this instance, for sure. A whole lot of this, man, y'all need to stop talking this racism BS. It's true. You have contributed. You aid and abet these little savages that you have squatted out of your behind. You did that. Those are excuses. The handicap is when we try to tell you and show you differently, that you say, no, we don't want to deal with that. A person don't have to walk in your shoe to know that that gravel will cut his feet. All you got to do is see it bleeding. That man done seen and heard the screams and the blood shed. And anybody can see, where was the parent? Well, the parent was there smoking dope. The parent was there running back and forth to Hawaii, running back and forth to Cancun, running all over the world like they were some type of Instagram star. 40-year-old, 50-year-old females just abandoning their children to run around and act like they living their life. Grown men running around spitting them out, but still driving tricycles themselves. And all of them, that generation, those generations, so doped up, not only on weed, so-called cannabis, pills and everything else. How can he be wrong? He ain't wrong. It's the truth. Parents was given the opportunity to be kids for life. And to say grandparents don't count. But then the state say we can't handle them, we don't want them, Foster parents, we don't want them, they're too damaged. So now they're in the street, running wild. And then when the white man say parents failed them, you want to sit here and act like he said something wrong. He told the truth. Till next week, Alafia, peace, and good health.